Welcome to the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter group. This is our study group for February 13th of 2025, our 151st class. Today we have a joint meeting with the Tampa Bay Women in Agile and the Tampa Bay Product Group joining the Tampa Bay IIBA chapter. My name is Thea Soren. I am the president of this chapter. I'm also the vice president of career and professional development. All that means is I'm here to help you. That's what I'm here for. So if you have any questions, if you need anything, if you want to, just ask a question, you are welcome to reach out to me through LinkedIn. My ID is right down there. We do like to celebrate our wins. These are the people that have said that our chapter's efforts help them get their certification. Several of them have gone on to be leaders in either our chapter or other chapters, which means that they value the certification and the efforts that we go through enough that they are willing to contribute their time, and that's important to us. This is our board of directors. These folks work together to bring this to you, as well as get the website up. We're working on creating a newsletter. We've got a lot of things in the works, and I really want to say a big shout out of appreciation to these folks. Our mission here is to equip business analysts with knowledge, tools, and support needed to excel in their roles through targeted training, mentorship, and fostering a professional community. We empower business analysts to drive impactful decisions, collaborate closely with stakeholders, enhance organizational efficiency, and elevate the practice of business analysis, because we are the Tampa Bay IIBA. We have members from literally all over the world. You notice the path of the hurricane here because we are in Florida, but we have over 200 members, and they are in countries all over the world, and we really appreciate that. We found that people don't always have an IIBA chapter near them that's active. We don't care where you live. If you need an active IIBA chapter, we meet every single week on Thursday nights, and we are willing to welcome you and provide the backing and support that you need so that you can get your certification or whatever you need. We'll foster that as much as we can possibly do. We've given you several ways to reach out to us. This is our normal Thursday night, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern meeting. We do have our meetings recorded on YouTube. Over 140 meetings are on YouTube, and that's impossible to find what you're looking for if you're trying to find it there. So Bob created his incredible index. It is at rpchurchill.com, and he has it separated out by who the speaker is, or what the topic is, or what chapter in the book we're studying, or he's got it cross-referenced 14 different ways, and you can click on it and go to that part of the YouTube recording. So it's wonderful. We also have our IIBA chapter website at TampaBay.IIBA.org, and we publish there our events calendar so that you can see what's coming up. We like to say thank you to our study group advisors, Bob and Esther. They have committed to try to be here as often as possible to answer any questions for us. And we're looking to open chapter branches. We would like to have some in-person meetups so that people can get to know each other, collaborate, do some things in person. If you're interested in an in-person meetup, we have one person in Tampa ready to go. We have inquiries from Orlando and Jacksonville, but we need someone to step up and say, I have 5 people at work that want to be a branch, and we will make that official. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. We have jobs out there, and we have talent in here, and we want to get you connected. If you know of a job that's not posted or about to be posted, please reach out to me so that I can connect the people that are looking. And if you're looking for a job, I have some resources for you. So I want to be the BA matchmaker for you, but we got to talk. We are proud to be partnering with these organizations. The Tampa Bay Women in Agile and Tampa Bay Product Group are here tonight. We also are partnered with a couple of other IIBA chapters, the Ireland chapter, the Philippines chapter, and the Bluegrass chapter. We work together to make each other better and bring you the best possible materials. We have our Director of Emerging Professionals, Kennedy Davis. She is working to create a program for our college students so that whenever they graduate college with that degree, they're not going to only have the degree, they'll also have a professional certification and a membership in a professional organization, which will make them stand head and shoulders above the rest of the graduates. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me or reach out to Kennedy. Watermark Learning has so many good products, and they've given us a discount code for 40% off of any of their products. This includes their CBAP study guide. This includes their test question bank that you can take at your own pace. This includes all of their classes. So if you're interested in any of their products in business analysis or in the other things that they have, you can use this discount code. Adaptive US has also given us a discount code of 20% off of their products, their live classes, their on-demand courses, excluding the IIBA exam vouchers, because their profit margin is small. And one thing that I really like about Adaptive is if you take one of their classes and you take the certification for that class and you don't pass, they will pay for you to take it a second time. And if you take it a second time and you still don't pass, they'll pay for you to take it one more time. They are that confident in the quality of their training. So give them a check out. We have been given group rates for the Project Summit in Business Analysis in Orlando, May 5th through 7th. If you're interested, these group rates will only last a little while longer to get the discount. Seamus and Bob are going to go to the conference and talk about what we do so that other people can find out about us. So tonight's meeting, as I said, is the Tampa Bay Women in Agile and Tampa Bay Product Group and us. We're going to be doing lightning talks. Lightning talk is a very short presentation focusing on key points, lasting only a few minutes, and we will have several lightning talks delivered tonight. We'll call the Data Blitz. Lightning talks tonight. Diana Ward is going to talk about change management in an agile world. Nisha Patel is going to talk about networking while searching for a job. Itinosa is going to talk about how behavior biases impact product delivery and the one thing POs, BAs, and teams can do to drive better outcomes. Vicky, I'm sorry I didn't update this slide, but Vicky has a topic too, and I'll get to that in just a minute. And then Seamus is going to give a presentation. And if we have time, I'll give a presentation. So let's go into the speakers. Diana is going to be talking about change management in an agile world, and I'll show this slide again in just a moment. Here is Vicky's. Vicky is going to talk about the power of looking back, retrospectives for business and beyond. Nisha is going to talk about networking while searching for a job. And Itinosa is going to talk about how behavior biases impact product delivery. And do we have Itinosa here? Has she arrived? Okay. Then Seamus is going to talk about automating client requests with Jira Service Manager, a project that he came up with the idea and he took it on and it works fantastically. So if you've never heard of Jira Service Manager, he's going to show us the basics. It's going to talk about automatically collecting requests, creating the corresponding Jira issues, and streamlining the majority of processes. And then, if we have time, and I don't think we will, I'm going to talk about preparing for your next job now, so that whenever you need it, you're ready to go. The next events that are coming up on February 15th, this Saturday, I'm going to be giving a 2-hour workshop out of the UK on the RACI techniques at a meeting level. On the 19th, we have an event for members of the IIBA, Empowering Business Analysis with AI. On the 20th, in Tampa, they're going to have an event benefiting the Apprentice Network. You don't have to be present to win, but the first place is $2,000. It's $40 donation per ball. On the 20th, also, Howard is going to come talk about the essence of story mapping. If you know anything about Agile or story mapping, you probably have Howard's book on your bookshelf. He is a best-selling author, and his presentation on prioritizing and story mapping is fantastic, and I'm so excited he gets to come. We have a Duran Park cleanup coming up on February 22nd. This is in person. Duran Park is about the size of 4 football fields, and so we're going to meet there. Some of us are going to meet there at 10 a.m. to do a cleanup. We encourage you to dress for walking through the grass, the mud, the whatever. And then after the cleanup, everyone will go to a place to have brunch and get to know each other and share. And a few people, if you're interested, Bob is going to be taking a walk afterwards. And so you can walk and talk and get to know Bob. On February 25th, we have leveraging Azure AI services. If you're learning about AI and you don't know about Azure, you need to know. It's going to be a big deal. And then on the 27th, Jody Huss and I will be doing a high-level demonstration of a technique that's a group of techniques called dysfunctional mapping. And then for the month of March, we're going to spend those 4 weeks walking through a software development lifecycle. Those folks that don't have any experience with SDLC, you're going to get the basics. You're going to get the ribs of the skeleton so that you can understand what it takes to walk through SDLC through an entire project. Now I'm going to turn it over to Nisha, and we're going to go through our presentation. And Diana, you're the first one up. Let me share your slides. Nisha?
Yeah, so thank you, Thea, for that. I'll just give a quick introduction about Tampa Bay Product and Tampa Bay Women in Agile. So Tampa Bay Product Group hosts once monthly in-person events in Tampa. Our next event is coming up on March 11th. It's, again, in person at Vaco by the airport. And we're going to be talking about feature flags. So if that's something that would interest you, highly encourage you to come out and join us on a discussion on feature flags. Switching over to Tampa Bay Women in Agile, I am a co-organizer along with Vicki Braun, Diana Ward, and our newest co-organizer, Samantha Pitts. We meet once a month. We alternate between in-person and virtual events. So this month is our virtual event, and next month will be our in-person event at Casa Santo Stefano in Ybor. It'll be a casual networking event, so come out and just, have a drink and discuss any and everything that might interest you, Agile or not. So we'll go ahead and kick off lightning talks with Diana. Diana, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Diana Ward, and thank you for allowing me to do my lightning talk tonight. I am an enterprise agility consultant and change management consultant, and I have been in this world for a very long time. So over 15 years. I have worked in consulting, I've worked directly for organizations, and I've owned my own consulting firm. So currently right now I'm supporting Booz Allen, which is really big in defense and government work. So it's a special sweet spot there. But I live in Clearwater, and I'm trying to think what else I had in my my introduction. But I'm really passionate about agility and change management. And by the way, I do come from the BA world as well. So I was a technical writer for many years. So lived in the world of business analysts for a long time. So yeah, thank you for having me. I will prompt when to change, Thea, when to change my slides. So I'm going to try to keep so this lightning talk, and we didn't really talk about what lightning talks are. There's different formats. I want to introduce a different format where I do use the slide presentation, but you're not going to have any words. I'm going to try to keep this to no more 10 to 15 minutes. And here we go. So my topic is managing change in an agile world. And it's really important that we talk about strategies to help us navigate change effectively in agile environments. Next slide. You change the slide? Yeah, there we go. So as Agile teams, we deliver value incrementally, which means change is a constant part of our journey. Imagine throwing a pebble into a pond and watching the ripples spread out. That's how change impacts our stakeholders. So managing this continuous change is really crucial, especially for our stakeholders who are impacted by frequent changes. When we work iteratively, our Agile teams are usually delivering value every 2 to 3 iterations. That's every 2 to 3 weeks. That's a lot of change that we're pushing out to our stakeholders, very frequent and very, very often. So we're going to explore how to manage these changes effectively and build the necessary skill sets within our Agile teams and ensure that our stakeholders are on board with the changes and value that we're delivering. Next slide, please. So change impacts everyone involved, from team members to stakeholders, and it's like a network of gears. When one gear turns, it affects the others. When we have change that occurs, we have to think about, is it local? Are we going to influence something and impact something up or down or sideways? There's a lot to actually understanding the impact of change. So understanding this interconnectedness helps us anticipate and manage the ripple effects of change. For instance, you might have a feature that are delighting users, but at the same time, this change causes a lot of work and time for the help desk team that has to support this new change that's implemented. So we have to think about everyone who's impacted. Product owners play a crucial role here because they have the role of asking stakeholders who will be impacted by the change and why and what value are we getting. So it's a strategy that product owners can use as they engage with their stakeholders when they're asked, their Agile team is asked to deliver something to that stakeholder. Why are we doing it? Who's impacted? Having those ongoing conversations is really important. We want to know, who, how, and what do they need to be successful through the change. Next slide, please. So let's explore how Agile teams can actively participate in managing change, building bridges to connect with our stakeholders. Agile teams can partner. So I'm going to talk about a couple of different approaches here, and I've done them all. So oftentimes, Agile teams that are delivering value to their customers and stakeholders will often partner with the change practitioner with the organization to help manage changes and consult the team. So many companies invest in having very specific change agent roles within the company where they support big initiatives and different project teams, and they come in, figure out what those changes are, and they actually come up with the change management plans and all the change activities, and they manage the change. Another way to do this is build the skill set within your Agile teams. Help your Agile teams become change agents and build that skill set cross-functionally on your team. How cool would that be that your cross-functional team can now manage the changes? Who's closer to it than the people doing the work for the stakeholders? Another scenario that we see is sometimes we're building value and delivering products for external clients and stakeholders, and they want to manage the change that we're bringing to them. So how can we partner and become a liaison with the change on their side to make sure that everything is seamless and that we're helping them along the way to make sure that their change is successful on their end and how they're going to manage that? It really brings a value add to our client side and really helps build trust with our stakeholders when we can do that. Next slide, please. So just like a craftsman needs tools, we need to give our Agile teams, the right tools for managing change. So some frameworks, like something that you might have heard called ADKAR, provide a structured approach to manage change effectively. There are many different change models that organizations may adopt, and some may just pull from a lot of them. It might not be very structured, but it's really important to know which one is your organization using and become familiar with it so there's consistency. No matter which model that you might leverage, it's always good to kind of take the frame up from ADKAR, no matter which one you follow. So ADKAR stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. So these are all stages of change that we want to be mindful of when we're embarking on a change for our customers, when we're delivering the value that our teams are working on. Want them excited. They want them aware of the change. What's the driver for change? When's it coming? Who's it impacting? How am I impacted? Create desire. Get their users excited about the change that's coming. Start getting those advocates early, early in the process. make sure that we have the right training and knowledge built to help them be successful to change, so that they have the ability to adopt it, and make sure that we're there for the reinforcement and that they can sustain the change. So we start from the beginning all the way to the end. We're not thinking of change just, as an afterthought. And this really helps us plan and communicate change seamlessly. So next slide, please. So integrating change management into Agile practices is like assembling a jigsaw puzzle. Each piece represents a part of the process, and when put together, they form a complete picture. So this integration ensures that change management is not an afterthought. So how many projects have you seen where a change is implemented, nobody knew about it, the stakeholders weren't identified, we probably left out stakeholders who were impacted and had no idea this was coming. So they weren't given the proper tools or training to be successful through the change. And a lot of times change agents are pulled in after the fact to do damage control. We want to try to avoid that. So some ways that we can start building change management into our Agile practices to avoid this is to start incorporating change management activities into our sprint planning and our retrospectives, and really help teams anticipate and address change-related challenges proactively. So as we're starting to do backlog refinement, as we're starting to talk about our upcoming sprints and the user stories that the team is going to be working on, let's start talking about the change activities that might be involved with that and start tracking that. And product owners, again, should continuously engage with stakeholders to understand the impact of changes. Adding changes, activities, and milestones to product roadmaps is really, really key. This, first of all, make sure that we're thinking about change, right? And that we're planning for it, but also that we're communicating to our stakeholders that we've got this. We've really thought this through, and we've got your back, and we're going to make sure that we're with you from the beginning to the very end. And again, that really starts to create those stakeholder relationships. Next slide. So change saturation, I just want to talk about that really quick. So when we get change thrown at us really quickly and often, and that happens with Agile teams all the time, you might hear something called change fatigue, or we might hit a wall where we can't take any more change. We might be excited about it, we might know about it, but I have too much going on in my world that I just can't do it now. So it's really important to think about when are we bringing change to our customers. So for Agile teams, at the end of their iteration, just because something's ready and done doesn't mean we should be giving it to our stakeholders yet. So this becomes a product owner's release strategy. Do we bundle up some of these changes that we're doing, like features, and put them in a release where we wait to release them together and give some time, make sure we have all the things in place, like the training and the communications. This really helps our stakeholders be ready to consume that change and be ready to accept it and be successful through it. So it's just something that we really want to be mindful of as we're thinking about, especially working in an Agile environment. Next slide, please. So applying change management principles is like nurturing a tree. Strong roots represent a solid foundation, and the branches really symbolize that growth and adaptation. By building change management skills within the team, we create a resilient and adaptable workforce. So we can continue training sessions, workshops, mentoring with other change practitioners in the organization to really keep these change management skills built within our team and scaled. So having an executive sponsor leading change is also pretty critical, especially in support of Agile teams starting to manage change. Next slide. So let's shine a light on some real world examples. I'm going to talk about some ways that my teams have implemented managing change. So when I led an Agile practice at a company, so we actually trained our Agile teams. I actually created the Agile teams. I set up the Agile teams. I trained them in Agile and all their roles. And I realized there was a gap. So what I would do was actually do change management training to the Agile teams and really built this as a cross-functional skill set across the team. And it kept change top of mind. We all own change. So as we're listening to our stakeholders, as we're getting ready to deliver value to them, we should always be asking these questions. Who's impacted? How? Is there something we need to be thinking about? And that was one way that we did it. And out of that, we created a change champion network. So naturally, we had natural leaders who emerged from this, and they became part of a change champion network in the organization, which effectively became a community of practice. So this allowed us not only to scale our change management skill sets across the organization, because those that are true change practitioners are really supporting really high strategic initiatives, and they can't be supporting every little change that's happening within the organization. So it created that scalability, and it also gave them a place where they could talk about what's working, what's not working, what are they learning, and having that support among themselves. And it was really great. We also have had the scenario where we had a really big initiative that had a lot of eyes on it. It was super critical that we did need to have that expertise come into the team, and we would have change practitioners work with our team to understand, and either they ran with it or they consulted our team. Sometimes we came up with the change management plans and all the activities involved, and we would just want another set of eyes on it. So these are just different ways in how I've implemented our Agile teams actually starting to own that change process. So next slide, please. So just kind of, thinking about new beginnings and hope, proactive change management is crucial for successful and sustainable change adoption in Agile environments. And by prioritizing change management and applying the principles, we can really ensure those smooth transitions and successful change for our stakeholders. So remember that change is not just a challenge, it's an opportunity, and we're all responsible for it. Next slide. So this is a call to action. So let's commit to building our change management skills and fostering a culture of adaptability. Together, we can turn challenges to opportunities, drive successful change. So thank you for your time and attention, and I'm hoping that we can be the change agents that lead the change for tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, and Vicki is going to go next. Is that correct, Vicki?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right.
So thank you very much for hosting this. As the slide mentions, I've been an Agile evangelist for many years. I've worked in IT and SDLC, but my background actually is in communications. That's something I'm a real champion for. And that's probably one reason that I chose my topic, even though it's not obvious at the beginning how it's a tool for communication. But I'm calling it the power of looking back, retrospectives in the business and beyond. So I'm curious, have you ever wrapped up a big project at work and thought, we should have done that differently? Or maybe you've had a family disagreement and it's not the first time, it just keeps happening. Well, I believe that the root of many of our problems, whether they're in business or interpersonal, is essentially lack of clear communication, or maybe it's miscommunication. So talking just a little bit about the background of how retrospectives came to be. So you're probably familiar with the concept of lessons learned at the end of a traditional project. So what that is after several weeks or months, and the folks who've been instrumental in doing the work, they have an opportunity to kind of recognize the things that they wish they had known at the beginning of the project. This is a very similar concept. However, retrospectives are a bit different because they focus on having small continuous improvements within a team. And it happens pretty often, like perhaps every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Retrospectives are very informal, and ideally they encourage open discussion and ideally quick adjustments. So retrospectives are, we quite often call them retros, originated within the software development arena, specifically within Agile practices. There was a concept introduced by a consultant named Norman Kurth, who actually wrote a book where he formalized the concept of retros. This is back in 2001. And this seemed like such a popular technique that many Agile methodologies adapted them, especially Scrum and extreme programming, which are essentially particular types of frameworks for doing software development. Typically, team members will get together after a predefined work period, or what we call a sprint, and discuss their experiences. For instance, they might, ask each other, what went well during this last work period? What could have gone better? And are there any changes we can make to improve our processes? And those changes can refer to anything from the technology that was used to the way the team works together and how they communicate. But now I want to make a business case for retrospectives. They're not just for Agile teams. They're actually a powerful tool for any workplace. Many teams might focus on what's next, but they don't necessarily ask what just happened. So I'm sure you figured out that without reflection, we quite often will repeat the same mistakes, which that leads to frustration, and any progress we could have made is probably stalled. Companies outside software development can use retrospectives to improve collaboration. For instance, marketing teams can analyze campaigns to refine their messaging. Sales teams might reflect on any deals they won or lost, so they can adjust their strategies. Hopefully, HR teams are improving their hiring processes based on candidate and manager feedback. So I want to take just one of these examples, the marketing team, and think about how that might look. For instance, let's say there's a team at a large retail company. After a campaign, they might want to assess what resonated with customers. What kind of responses did they get? Were certain promotions more effective than other ones? And within software development, we quite often think of this as A/B testing. So similarly, they might be curious about or want to focus on what challenges they faced and what they should change the next time. Perhaps they might want to shift away from print ads to digital, for instance. So by continuously reflecting this way, the team can identify patterns, they can streamline their processes and improve engagement with the customers, which really, it's the customers that are driving our success. So this isn't something that's limited to your business experiences, however. The same technique can work at home. You might try, for instance, having a mini retrospective with your family. Ask them, what went well this week? What was great? What was frustrating? Is there anything that we can do to help each other? Things that we can do differently? This kind of approach can really strengthen relationships and reduce stress. In fact, I kind of wish I'd had the opportunity to do this within my own immediate family when I was growing up. But some families use an abbreviated form of this approach at the dinner table by asking everybody, each family member, what's the best thing that happened to you today? And similarly, what's the worst thing that happened to you today? This gives folks an opportunity to share their experiences and opinions about the things that they can celebrate or what might be a learning experience. Another time that a family might want to consider this kind of reflection is after a vacation or perhaps a holiday. Since those are situations that are outside our normal experiences, they can often induce quite a bit of stress. So it can be helpful to discuss, what did people enjoy? What was stressful? And what might we want to do differently? Which I'm sure you're sensing a theme here. So, but even at the individual level, you might just take 5 minutes to reflect at the end of the day about the kinds of decisions you made. And for instance, like when I was driving, when I was commuting instead of working remotely, I would often think about my wins for that day and also the things I wish I'd done differently. So just like many other things in life, your experiences might not always be positive. I just want to kind of caution you about that. For instance, there can be some risks to having a retro in the workplace without a skilled facilitator. For instance, a scrum master. Retrospectives can become unfocused. You might hear loud voices. The people who talk the most might be kind of stepping on other people, or there might not be any actionable outcomes at the end of the event. So if it turns into like a bitch session or a blame game, the retro can be divisive instead of, the whole idea is to foster improvement. In fact, Some team members might not want to speak honestly at all because they perceive criticism. If you want to avoid that, and if you'd like to learn more about how to facilitate retrospectives for your team in a positive manner, there's a book that I'd like to recommend. It's called Agile Retrospectives, Making Good Teams Great. It's written by two Agile coaches named Esther Derby and Diana Larson. And in that book, they provide quite a bit of guidance about how to create a safe space for your team. I know that's a term that can be kind of overused, especially in Agile circles. However, if you have an environment where people are afraid to speak up, it's very reminiscent of that quote to me that is quite often attributed to Einstein about doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. That's not a good thing. And obviously I'm paraphrasing here. So not only is that safe space important, but there are actual techniques that you can use that Derby and Larson talk about for designing and running retrospectives that will lead to meaningful improvements within your team. So in conclusion, I'd like to say that looking back isn't about blame, it's about learning. Regardless of whether it's at home or work, retrospectives can create a good space for clear communication, better decisions, and true improvement. So I encourage you to try one. You might be surprised at what you discover. So thanks, everybody.
Very nice. Okay, Itanosa, do you want to present or do you want to send me your presentation?
I sent it to you. You should check in the chat. You have it?
Okay.
Let's see if that works. If it doesn't, I can present.
I apologize for the delay, folks. You sent it to me on LinkedIn?
Through the chat. So it should be in the, you sent me a message, I sent it in the chat. If it's easy, I can just share my screen.
Okay, why don't you share your screen?
Okay, let me pull it up.
Here you go.
Just pulling it up. All right.
While she gets that up, I want to say something about Vicky. Vicky, I've never seen anybody take such good notes as you do.
Yeah.
Best note taker I've ever seen in my life.
She does. I can vouch for that.
Well, very similar to Diana, I have a technical communications background. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I'm driven
Yeah.
to gather information and share it.
If you ever want to do a workshop, we got to talk, okay?
Thanks, Thea.
All right. Okay, Itanosa, take it away.
Amazing. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Atiosa Lahore. I'm a behavioral economist, which means I study how people make financial decisions. And I've been doing that for almost a decade, working for big banks and investment banks around the world, from Australia, US, the UK. Let's jump right into it. Have you ever built a tool, a product, a service that you thought was going to go just exceptionally well? You thought it was really going to resonate with users. You thought you were going to get high conversions. You thought your stakeholders were going to love it. And instead you got crickets. Pretty much it didn't resound the way you thought it would. And maybe you were confused because you said, well, I used all the frameworks. I did design thinking. I did an excellent customer journey. The requirements I gave to my devs were amazing. The numbers told us that I should work. We did user testing on it. What went wrong? Last year, I was in Masai Mara, and I promise it's all connected. I was in Masai Mara, which is big game reserve in Kenya. And we were in this Jeep, right? We're in this vehicle, we're in this massive game reserve, and we're watching, elephants and giraffes and zebra, and like it's just this magical day, blue skies above, very quiet, very still. And all of a sudden I hear one of the girls who's in the Jeep with me say, oh no. And so I look up, like, what is she looking at? And in the distance, on the horizon, I see this little warthog. And a warthog is like, if you watch Lion and King, Pumbaa is the warthog. So little stout animal, little furry legs, teeny tiny. This warthog is being chased by a lioness. And so we're all like, oh no, oh, this is not going to end well. And so all the way in the distance, we can see the warthog running, running, running. And the lioness is just chasing it. And the warthog keeps running and running and running. And the lioness is running, it's running. Warthog keeps running. Lioness starts to slow down, the warthog keeps running. Lioness starts to stop, the warthog keeps running. This little warthog runs all the way from where we can see it on the left side of the horizon to the right side of the horizon, and it keeps running, it never stops. That warthog that day understood that in order for it to survive, in order for it to keep living until the next day, it needed to do just one thing. It needed to keep running. And for a lot of us in organizations, my premise is that there's one thing we have to get right. There's one thing that is as foundational and fundamental to the work that we do as running was to that warthog. And what it is very simply asking the right questions. A couple of years ago, I worked with a big organization in Australia, the largest bank in Australia, and they had gotten into a little bit of trouble with the regulators. And the regulators have essentially said to them, we're going to take $1 billion of your profits. Again, this is a massive bank in Australia. It's one of the biggest banks. The government regulator said, we're going to take $1 billion of your profit. We're going to put it in escrow, basically, and you cannot touch it until you prove to us that you have shifted your culture and fixed some of the things that we think are going wrong, which is why you're harming your customers. And so this big bank, because I worked there at the time, came to my team and came to me, the behavioral economics team, and said, we need to prove that we're shifting culture. How do we do that? A, how do we shift culture? B, how do we measure that we're improving it? What do we do? And my boss came to me and said, hey, here's this great new project. Go figure out how to, shift culture. And also it's tied to $1 billion that the bank really cares about. The team that we're working with, our stakeholders reported directly into the CEO. So this was a big deal. Now, imagine if somebody came to you and said, hey, this is going directly to the CEO's office. It matters a lot to the bank's future and the regulators. What is your first instinct? It's to take action, right? You start thinking, okay, we can do this, we can use that measure, we can do ethnographic research. Your mind starts going all of these different places. We took a slightly different approach. We spent a couple of sessions with the stakeholders just sitting down and going, let's get clear on what you mean by culture. Let's get clear about what you mean by when you say shifting culture. What does that look like in the data? How do you evidence that actually the culture is shifting? And let's get really clear about why do we need to answer this question? What does it look like to do it very well? And fast forward a year later, towards the end of this project, we had, because of the reports we had done and the work we had done, we had gotten 500 million of that billion released. And that was directly tied to some of the reports that were given to the government regulators. And I will never forget this. The stakeholder said to me, Etiosa, the value that you guys brought at the start, the thing that really, really helped us was making us get clear about our thinking. It was making us sit down and go, let's all align and let's ensure that we're doing the right thing and we're not just reacting to the mandate that we've been given. And so my premise to you today is that I'm going to show you a couple of questions that you can ask to help you reinforce and just stress test the work that you're doing and help you make sure that you're doing the one most important thing before you start building, before you start delivering requirements and things like that. Now, there's a couple of reasons why it's very easy for us, especially in big organizations, to not ask the right questions. One of those is confirmation bias. We all have priors. We have beliefs about what we think is going to work. And what's insidious about confirmation bias is basically, I have a belief. And so when I go out into the world, everything I see just reinforces that belief. It's just the way our brains are wired. What's insidious about confirmation bias is that sometimes when we focus on the numbers, let's measure everything, let's just get really precise and detailed, the numbers can reinforce our bias. And so you think, okay, we're taking a quant perspective, we're measuring things, it's going to give us the right insights, it's going to keep us on track. Not so much. There's a fallacy called the McNamara fallacy. It's named after the Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War, whose focus was such on like the numbers. He wanted to measure casualties and measure all of these things. And he completely missed the fact that he was fighting a numbers war, and the people he was fighting against were fighting a war of attrition. A war of attrition is we're fighting on principle. We do not care what happens. We're going to be here until we're not here anymore. And so he missed out entirely on like they were fighting two different battles, and it didn't quite work out well for his career. He has a whole fallacy named after him. And so confirmation bias can be we think that we're measuring the right thing, but because we haven't asked the right questions, we're only finding data that reinforces what we want. Here's the first question you can ask to help you come against confirmation bias. Is there true value to my customer? That's the first foundational question. And you notice the question isn't what is the value? We do not assume that there is value. We start with, is there any value to doing this? So for example, your team might have come to you and said, hey, we want to build this weight loss tracker into the app. You ask this question, well, is there true value to the customer? Well, if you ask all customers who are already tracking their weight, they might say, yes, absolutely, we want to track our weight in the app. If you go broader and ask a different set of customers, you might hear, don't really enjoy tracking my weight, actually kind of hate the experience, wouldn't use it every day. In fact, the only reason I would track my weight is compared to a benchmark. And I feel good on days when like I'm moving towards that benchmark. I feel terrible on days when I'm moving away from that benchmark. And so then you might start to refine that question and go, okay, it's not really about tracking weight. It feels like there's something about the experience that is not working for our customers right now that we can deliver better. How do we help customers who, when they're not missing that benchmark and they feel terrible, how do we change the experience around and help them feel good? How do we build an experience that supports customers emotionally at all stages of that journey, right? So you can see by just asking that, hey, is there true value to my customer? You are already starting to help your teams refine their thinking a little bit and get crisp about, hey, what actually are we doing here and why are we doing it? The next sort of bias that can inform and influence the way that we build is action bias. I really encourage everyone to watch this video. If you can, the title is Vending Machine for Pepsi. It's a little joke Pepsi took out against about Coke. If you haven't seen it, it's a fantastic video. But essentially, we're all familiar, I'm sure, with the new Coke story, right? Many years ago, Coke execs heard that in blind taste tests, Pepsi was winning. People were preferring the flavor of Pepsi. And so what do? They freak out. They say, we need to change the flavor of Coke. And so they do that. And Coke is a very innovative company. Like Coke is always trying new things. They just tried something like last year and it didn't quite work well for them, but we love that Coke will always innovate and try new things and push the envelope. Anyway, 70s, they try to change the flavor of Coke. Everyone freaks out. Nobody likes it. People are writing petitions. People are emailing the CEO. People are lunching. People are going to stores and buying literally 1,000 cases of Coke because they're so scared that they would never taste the Coke they love ever again. And so what does Coke have to do? They have to walk back this whole campaign that they rolled out. They have to walk back New Coke and say, hey, we messed up. We're so sorry. But at the root of that was action bias, right? That notion of we always have to be doing something. I was talking to a friend of mine about this a couple of weeks ago, and she said, I'm a woman in an organization. I have to be doing something at all times to prove my value. And that made me think, well, is that how everybody thinks? Like, do we all feel? And think about that right now. Do you feel like in order to prove your value to like an organization, you always have to be doing something? It's worth testing. The next question we can ask to help refine and help us get crisp and build things that matter is what happens if we do nothing? Now, this is not saying we're not going to do anything, so nobody freak out. I'm not advocating for that. But it is helping your team start to get clear about what is the actual value behind what we need to do, right? So in that weight loss example, if you ask, well, what happens if we do nothing? They might say, well, we saw 12% of our user base over the last 13 months go to a different competitor. That competitor is better priced, but they also have this weight loss tracker. We can compete on price, but we thought if we build in the tracker, maybe it's a way for us to differentiate ourselves. And now you can go, oh, interesting. So the issue is not just we want to build a tracker, it's just something that about what we're delivering that might not be working for a slight minority of customers. Let's go figure out who that minority is and are there commonalities in them. And let's see if there's a different experience that we're looking for. We can serve them better in that way. So you can see by asking, hey, what happens if we do nothing? It helps you start to clarify what is the value, what is the purpose of this thing we're about to do? And let's get very clear on, do we need to take this action or is there a different type of delivery performance? Is there a different type of solution that might help to answer the real question, the real need at stake? And so I call this the clarity triad. The first one, is there value to the customer? Second, what happens if we do nothing? The third one is, assuming those first two questions are answered, you can start to dig into your actual experience and start to go, what are the different behavioral barriers? You can do a behavioral audit. You can think through where might the customer psychology kind of fall down along the customer journey. But what I would love for everyone to do is that think right now about any project, anything that you're working on, and just kind of stress test it with these first two questions. Is there true value to the customer? And what happens if we do nothing? And you might be surprised about the insights that kind of come out as a result of stress testing your work through these questions. And the last thing I just want to say is that I find that great leaders are often unafraid to push the envelope and to ask pressing questions. And I find that it can be a way to distinguish and differentiate yourself in your organization. If you're not afraid to go, let me ask some challenging questions here. Let's just refine the thinking and let's make sure that we are actually doing the things that are going to work so that we focus on winning the right race. We focus on, like the little warthog, doing the thing that's going to take us to the next level and not be stuck doing things that are not going to help us win. So thank you, everybody. Would love to connect. There's a QR code. It just leads to my website. And yeah, happy to chat at any time about anything product or shift in behavior. Thank you.
Very nicely done. Thank you so much. Seamus, let's let you go next.
Awesome. Yeah, I try to keep it short and simple for this one. Hello,
Okay.
hello, everybody. My name is Seamus Banzavicius, and I'm a business analyst for 3 years. Just some fun side notes about me. One thing I do is automation outside of work. I'm also a personal trainer. I also do modeling on the side. And one thing I do love is the work that I do. And every single day is another day for me to grow. So one of these things that came was automating client requests with Jira Service Manager. How many would you say of you in here would use Jira on a day-to-day basis? I feel like probably maybe half of you guys or majority of you guys. So we started this forum. Originally, it came from, clients were constantly sending emails with insufficient amount of information. We had manual processes to create each Jira card that took up a lot of time. And we're working through current projects. And then, for instance, a client wanted to request other projects in between, it would decrease efficiency and take a lot more time. Also, with all that, information get lost through different chains of messaging forms, email teams, Slacks, etc. And with all this that came, one of these days, I was just looking, I was like, I'm working with the client, full time with the developer. And we constantly are just going through projects. And one thing that we just seemed to notice was as we're working on projects, clients are constantly sending requests, and it's very easy to lose those requests. So one thing that I started working on outside of work was building kind of automations where a client can give us information and, almost automate it, go into Jira. So I decided to bring it over to our manager, and my manager connected with me, the implementation manager, and we started collaborating on my side, the BA side. And this is where we start coming on with this Jira Service Manager, where we can almost have an integration with APIs as well that are free, which instantly start coming with this Jira Service Manager. And this automatically, as soon as we start implementing it, and this is actually something that I use on a day-to-day basis, and I pretty much give a link to my client, and they are pretty much submitted with an account inside of Jira Service Manager. So the pros to this is pretty much anytime I'm working on a project or they have something they want to request in, they're going to be sending in a form similar to this. And one thing I really love about this is it makes the client really think about what they're going to send in. Are they just going to send in some project with a few sentences, which, we start to see a lot that came out. What we noticed ever since we started doing these forms was that the client starts sending more detailed notes, more detailed explanations. It got them to think more, leading to less archive projects and more efficiency. So right here is kind of the part one is I was going to bring out the whole slide, but I know I take little snippets of it. Right now, the client would pretty much put in the project name at the very top. So they would just, the title of what they want the project to be. And then obviously their name, the phone number, and their email that the client has. And then for each business analyst, depending on who's their client or kind of who's working with, we would have different conditions that go with the form. So for this one, you'll see towards the bottom, but on this one, you can explain a pretty simple explanation about the project and kind of go into detail. You go on part 2 right now. And this is kind of where the business case is. So the first part you saw right above was they went kind of a simple explanation and then the real reasoning. Why do we need this project? Who is this going to impact? Who is this going to help? And on top of that, we also give the client also, pre-selected options that they can choose. So, we give them a bunch of different options that they can select, and obviously the clients get to fill out the user stories. And then also, some other questions that I know a lot of features ask, or something like you see right below, is this a brand new feature? If not, they'll have like another condition that will let them know. And how important is this project? So on the business analyst and project management side for us was that I need to know, how do I prioritize this project? Do I treat this as one of these other projects? Is this one of these projects that I want to put down for a few months down the line? And this gives the client full access to really, let me understand how they want this product to be treated. Like for instance, they would choose brand new feature, how important is project, and then you can see the little target completion timeline, for instance, critical. So that means we need all hands on deck. I'm going to start on this project, and then so forth. Then you can go to part 3. And then right there is you see the client priority. So that on our side, we work with 3 different projects on a day-to-day basis. So I work full-time with this client, and we also kind of run a developer. And I kind of run up the whole entire account, running their whole backlog, sprint backlog, all that. And as you know, as you start working with clients and they constantly want projects, it can get pretty messy when they bring a lot of projects. You're jumping from task to task and so on. So all this different things you see throughout the form is, questions I would ask the client directly. And, clients before would just send over just a simple explanation, I want this project done, but they wouldn't go to detail and think deeper into detail when they send it over. This also gives the client options to send over mockups, which also help as well. So they could just, upload any pictures or anything like that. And then we can go to the next slide. And after it would be, for instance, they press submit, I would get an email notification. It would automatically update on my side, on my Jira. It would change the project owner, for instance, to be me. And then it would also update the description to what they included. And then I couldn't exactly get the form on here because there was private information, because it's exactly from one of our projects and one of our tasks we do. But as you see right here at the very bottom, that little arrow sign, that would actually be one of the forms that the client requested in. So you have all the information that the client just sent in right up to you, and you pretty much have the Jira card created already. This, on top of that, would instantly let me put it into my project board that I did on my side. And then on the last slide we can go to. And then the feedback results we've seen since using it. We've seen a huge decrease in archive projects. We've seen increased project output by over 50 to 60%. Before, we could get some projects take 1 or 2 weeks put in because, a lot of back and forth with the client to fully understand the request. And then clients brought the majority information ready to bring to our solutions architect to proceed to the project discussion, which was awesome. We get the request. As soon as we get that request from them, I scan it over and then I bring it up to solutions, and pretty much we already have a majority of the thing. I talk over quickly solutions, bring it back to the client, and boom, we're pretty much getting ready, building up the document and the user stories, everything moving forward. Then the nice part on top of this was, well, we've seen more information that we came out over from the clients. We have the Jira card automated completely, so I wouldn't have to go manually update every single Jira card by hand. I know as you start getting more projects getting sent over, or sometimes clients want 5 projects, it can get very hectic. So that was another plus that came out of this. And then also the clients also have more freedom to get card created and always have the information saved. So you know how sometimes clients can send over information, emails, and sometimes it can get lost, or for instance, a team or Slack or information that they want to request. Well, right here, we have all the forms and attachments, which save us a lot more time. Nice part about this as well is clients can also see the status of a project. So that's one of the nice caveats to having that. So that is my slide. Try to go as quick as possible for that.
You did a fantastic job. Does anyone have any questions for Seamus?
I do. You're talking about Jira Service Manager. Is that an app that you're adding, or where is
So
that
they
coming
actually,
from?
yeah, so actually Jira actually has it. I think this is pretty brand new. Like they've been adding a lot of different new features. It's really called Jira Service Management. So if you actually you look through Jira, you actually see it's one of the things. I know it hasn't been really prioritized by a lot of people, and it's kind of becoming new. So as we kind of start seeing that and start implementing in, we're like, we got to start using this right away. And my client and my dedicated team, we're the first persons to implement this in. So we're the first ones to start using it, and now we are going across all of our departments. And I know Tibor is in here. He's actually one of my coworkers. I think he's been using it as well too for some of his clients too. So definitely, from what I've reported to clients, they've been loving it and just been seeing a lot more progress and way quicker project output. So
Okay. Yeah, I was looking in my Jira while you were talking and I couldn't find it. So I'll have to search a little bit further.
yeah, definitely something to look over. I wanted to have this kind of conversation in forums just as like a way for maybe somebody who uses Jira could kind of open up their brains and ideas to maybe you guys are doing something manual that could, you know, automate or just find a new solution that also help your client and yourself.
I can see this helping not just software development, but anything that you have to intake information from various people, you could use the same.
Correct.
And Seamus, you said that it creates a Jira ticket. Are you talking about a user story or a feature, or what does it create?
It creates a whole Jira, like I would say, like you can make it epic, you can make it a task, either or. You can make it do anything almost. There's a lot of options on there where you can fully customize it on there.
Very cool. Okay, Nisha. There you are.
We are at 7:59. So I will propose to actually record my my lightning talk and actually just post it on LinkedIn. That way, if you are interested in this topic, you can just listen in. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thea, are we good with that? And we a team?
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. So I would definitely encourage everyone to follow TampaBayIIBA on LinkedIn and meetup.com. I will actually post the links right here in chat so you can follow along with any upcoming events. As long as with the organizers, we're connected on there as well. If you haven't dropped your LinkedIn, awesome. Thank you, Atanissa. Go ahead and drop your LinkedIn. You know, it's a little difficult to really get that networking in group setting. So feel free to drop in your LinkedIn as well. Thea, did you want to, I know you talked about your upcoming events at the top of the call. Did you have anything else to close with? I just have my one that our next Tampa in-person event for Women in Agile is going to be on March 13th.
Very good.
And Ebor.
All of our events are going to be on our event page. I went over them a while ago. I did see a note that the watermark discount code is not working. I will contact them tomorrow. Give me 24 hours. I'm sure that they will get it working because they really like what we do for them. Thank you, every one of you, for joining. If your name says Diana Ward and your name isn't really Diana Ward, please put your correct in there because we give education credits for this and we track it very carefully. We want to give you the education credits and we want to track it properly. If you have any questions, you're free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Nisha, do you have anything else?
I do not. Co-organizers, did you guys have anything?
No, we're just really happy to you know, collaborate on this. We look forward to future collaborations. We'd love to cross promote as well. So thank you for having us. This was a lot of fun. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was very fun.
Okay. All right. Well, again, if anyone has any questions, if you have any needs, please reach out. We can only help people that we know what you need. And we will see some of y'all here next Thursday, and we'll see others of you at one of the other group's meetings. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.